It was December 30th when I got the text. Luca, yo man, you home? Luca, I'm in town. Shit fell through. Mind if I crash? Luca, my little brother's best friend. And a name I hadn't seen pop up on my phone in over a year. The last time I saw him was my brother's graduation party. Luca was 3 beers in, shirtless in our parents' pool, flirting with anything that had a pulse. He was loud, tan, stupidly charming, and totally off limits, for every reason that mattered. Especially because, even though he never knew it, I'd had a thing for him back in high school. He was the kind of guy you never expected to stick around. Too pretty. Too restless. Always chasing something. So seeing his name now? It was jarring. Me. You mean for New Year's? Luca? Yeah, just one night. Luca? Long story, but I'll bring beer. Luca PLS? I should have said no, but instead I sent me. Sure. Couch is yours. The next night, December 31st, he showed up at my door with snow in his hair and 2 six-packs under his arm like we were college roommates, about to rage. Dude, he grinned, eyes lighting up when I opened the door. Still look the same, maybe a little grumpier. Hi, Luca, I said, deadpan. Hi. He mocked back, brushing past me like it was his place. He kicked off his boots and dumped his backpack on the floor like he was settling in for a week, not just crashing for a night. Then he did this thing, half sigh, half stretch, arms over his head, that made his hoodie ride up, exposing that line of skin just above his waistband. I looked away immediately. Old habit. We ordered takeout and cracked open beers while the New Year's Eve coverage played in the background. The conversation was easy, maybe too easy. He told me the friend he was supposed to stay with got COVID, that his last-minute Airbnb canceled, that he'd flown home to clear his head. I didn't press. I just listened, trying not to stare when he talked with his hands or laughed with his whole body. Why aren't you out? He asked around 11:40, curled up on the couch beside me like a cat in human form. Wasn't in the mood. Bars are packed. Plus, I like my own toilet. He laughed. Fair. I tried to get into this warehouse party in Brooklyn, but it was like $150 at the door. Screw that. At midnight, we toasted on my couch with cheap beer. He didn't kiss me, obviously. But for 1 second, we just looked at each other over the rim of our bottles, and something hung there. I went to bed, thinking that would be it. One night. No big deal. But the next morning, he was still there. And the day after that, too. The first morning, I figured he'd leave by noon. But when I walked out of my room around 10, Luca was still there. Barefoot in my kitchen, shirtless, wearing a pair of gray sweats that definitely weren't mine. Cooking eggs like we did this every day. Morning, he said, without looking up, flipping something in the pan. You didn't have milk, so I used half and half in the eggs. Hope that's cool. I blinked at him, still processing. You're still here? Yeah, he said casually. Didn't want to Uber out last night, plus I kind of figured you wouldn't mind. I don't, I rubbed my face. You don't even have a toothbrush. I used my finger, he said, grinning like it was a joke. And that should have been it. A morning after breakfast, a thank you, and then he'd be on his way, texting some other friend to couch surf with. But after breakfast, he didn't leave. He put on a movie. Then asked if I wanted to go get coffee. Then it was too cold out, so he made coffee instead. Then he took a nap on the couch. By sunset, I realized I hadn't asked when he was leaving, and he hadn't offered. Hey, I said as he was scrolling through his phone that night, wrapped in my throw blanket like it was his own. So, what's the plan? For tomorrow? He looked up. What do you mean? Are you heading out, or... Oh, he looked down at his phone, then back at me. Honestly, I don't have anywhere to go yet. My flight back's not till the 4th. I figured I'd just hang here a few days, if that's cool. A few days. I hesitated. I mean, yeah, sure, just wish I'd known. He gave me that grin again, the same one he used to use on teachers when he didn't do his homework. Come on, you love the company. I didn't answer. And I think he knew not to push it. But he didn't pack up, either. By the second day, his stuff was spread out like a crime scene across my apartment. A hoodie on the back of the chair, socks draped over the armrest, his cologne lingering in the bathroom. He used my shampoo, my coffee, my Netflix account, And weirdly, I let him. I told myself it was temporary, just a few days. He'd leave on the 4th, and I'd get my space back. But something about the way he just filled the apartment made it hard to hate. He brought this chaotic, effortless energy that made the place feel less sterile, less lonely. It had just been me here for almost 2 years. I was used to silence. I liked things neat, controlled. But now, there was music playing while I cooked, dishes in the sink that weren't mine, someone else's laughter echoing down the hall. It was inconvenient, disruptive. It was kind of nice. That night, he crashed on the couch again, lying on his side with one arm tucked under his head, scrolling on his phone in the dim light from the kitchen. I stood in the doorway, watching him, my mouth opening before I could stop it. "You good sleeping out here?" He looked up. "Yeah, man, couch is fine." "You want a pillow or something?" He smirked. "You offering your bed?" I rolled my eyes. "Just asking." He laughed. "Nah, I'm good. You snore anyway." I didn't, but I let it go. He stayed the next night, too, and the next. When the 4th came around, I expected bags by the door. I expected him to be lacing up his boots, saying thanks again and see you next time. Instead, he walked out of the bathroom with a towel around his waist and a toothbrush in his mouth like it was any other Tuesday. "Flight got pushed," he said through foam. "Till the 7th. You cool with that?" I hesitated, but nodded. "Yeah, that's fine." Except the 7th came and went, and he never brought up leaving again. By the 2nd week of January, Luca's one-night crash had morphed into full-blown cohabitation. He'd started doing things that didn't scream guest anymore, like taking out the trash without asking, or picking up oat milk on a grocery run because I noticed you were almost out. He set up his laptop at my kitchen counter like it was a co-working space and casually did whatever freelance hustle he had going on, editing video clips, answering emails, even taking Zoom calls with his AirPods in like this was his place too. One day, I walked in to find him cleaning the stovetop, shirtless, with one AirPod in, mumbling lyrics to himself. "I owe you, man," he said when he saw me staring. "Least I can do is keep the place decent." I stood there, coffee mug half full, trying to act normal. But it was hard to act normal when the guy you used to crush on in high school was in your apartment, cleaning your stove like a domestic fantasy. "I didn't say you owed me anything," I said. He smirked. "Well, I do, so shut up and let me mop." That was Luca. All charm, all deflection. He was affectionate in this casual, almost dangerous way. Like he didn't know how easily his touches burned through people. He'd brush past me in the kitchen and rest his hand on my lower back for just a second too long, sit too close on the couch and stretch his legs so they touched mine. He'd toss me one of his sweatshirts from his duffel bag when I complained about the cold, like it was nothing, like it didn't mean something, but it did, at least to me. One night, around midnight, we were sprawled on the couch, watching a stupid action movie we'd both already seen. He was half asleep, legs stretched out, his head tilted back against the cushions. I got up to grab water, and when I came back, he shifted slightly, patting the seat beside him. "Cayman," he said, voice low and drowsy. "You make a good heater." It was a dumb joke. I could have ignored it. But I didn't. I sat down beside him, closer than usual. He didn't move. Half an hour later, I realized his head had dropped lightly against my shoulder. He was warm and quiet, and his breathing had slowed. And I just sat there, letting it happen. I could feel the weight of him, the heat from his skin, the scent of his shampoo, something citrusy and sharp. I stared straight ahead, pretending I wasn't completely wrecked by how normal it felt. At some point, I reached for the remote to turn the TV off. The screen faded to black, leaving only the soft hum of city noise outside, and Luca's quiet breath at my ear. He didn't wake up. I didn't move. When I finally got up, carefully, slowly, he stirred a little but didn't say anything. I let him sleep there, on the couch, alone. The next morning, he was already up when I walked out, making breakfast like nothing had happened. He didn't mention it. Neither did I. But from that day on, something shifted. He started doing this thing, leaving the bathroom door cracked while he brushed his teeth or showered, humming along to music loud enough that I could hear it from my bedroom. His towel would slip a little lower than necessary, He'd walk around in boxers that were technically clothes, but barely. I kept catching myself watching him, and sometimes I caught him watching me back. It was sometime around mid-January when I realized I'd stopped asking when he was leaving. The question had become irrelevant. He'd slipped into my life like water through cracks. Quiet at first, then unavoidable. My place was our place now. He knew where I kept the charger for the vacuum. He took the dog out, even though the dog wasn't his. I was dog-sitting for a friend, but you wouldn't know it by how Luca talked to her like she was his own. He even started changing the music when I cooked, like we were negotiating the kitchen playlist as a couple. The weird part? It didn't feel invasive. It felt inevitable. But we didn't talk about it. Not the night he fell asleep, half on my shoulder. Not the fact that he'd taken to sleeping shirtless under my extra blanket on the couch and never offered to leave. Not the growing stack of his stuff migrating from the corner to the closet in the guest room. It was like we were both pretending this wasn't something. And I told myself that was fine. Until the night it wasn't. It was Friday. Cold and raining, the kind of night that made you want to order greasy takeout and watch dumb movies until you passed out. I'd just finished cleaning the dishes when Luca walked into the kitchen with 2 beers and this stupid grin on his face. "All right," he said, handing me one. "Truth or dare?" I raised an eyebrow. "You're kidding." "Nope," he said, already opening his bottle. "Come on. You owe me after that rom-com you made me sit through." I snorted. "You cried." "It was emotional. You cried at the proposal." He grinned, unfazed. "Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds had chemistry, okay? Don't judge." I rolled my eyes and took the beer. "Fine. Truth." He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You ever hook up with a guy?" It shouldn't have caught me off guard. But it did. I stared at him, heartbeats suddenly thudding louder than the rain against the windows. "That's your question?" He shrugged, but his eyes didn't leave mine. "Yeah," I hesitated. "Once." He didn't blink. "When?" "College," I said, taking a sip. "Sophomore year." He nodded slowly, like he was filing that away. "Was it good?" I stared at him. "Is this a game or an interrogation?" He laughed, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just curious." He looked down, then back up. "Truth or dare?" I took a breath. "Truth." "Ever had a thing for me?" The question landed like a punch to the chest. He said it so casually. Like we were playing a drinking game. Like this wasn't the kind of thing that could break whatever weird, fragile balance we'd built. I could have lied. I probably should have. But I didn't. I looked at him and said, "Yeah, I did." His expression didn't change. Not right away. Then, slowly, he set his beer down and walked out of the kitchen. Just like that. No follow-up, no joke, just silence and retreat. I stood there, completely still, stomach churning. 10 minutes passed, then 20. I considered knocking on his door, but I didn't. I just went to bed. In the morning, I woke up early and went to make coffee. Luca was already there. He turned when I walked in. No hoodie, just sweatpants and messy hair. He looked like he hadn't slept. "Hey," he said quietly. I nodded. "Hey." There was a pause. Then he looked at me with this open, unreadable expression. "You still got a thing for me?" My heart kicked into gear, panic and heat rising in equal measure. But I didn't get the chance to answer, because he stepped in, close, too close, and said, "Because I think I've got one for you." "You still got a thing for me?" he asked. I should have been ready for it. Should have expected it after what I said the night before, after the weird tension that had been building up between us, like steam behind a shut door. But hearing him say it out loud, it still stunned me. And then, "Because I think I've got one for you." He said it like it wasn't even a big deal. Like he was just saying he liked the eggs I made in the mornings, or my couch was more comfortable than his last apartment's. Not like he'd just dropped a bomb in the middle of my kitchen. I didn't say anything. My mouth moved, but nothing came out. My brain was busy short-circuiting. Luca took a breath, scratching the back of his neck the way he always did when he was nervous. "Look, I didn't mean to weird you out. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what you said. And then I started thinking about how I'd been feeling lately. And I just figured, screw it. I'd rather be weird than lie." He laughed under his breath, eyes flicking away from mine. I'm not exactly a relationship guy, he added. Never really was. You know that. But being here with you, hell, living here with you, I don't know, man. It feels right. Comfortable in a way I didn't expect. I catch myself doing dumb things, like reaching for your mug instead of mine, or using your shampoo even though I brought my own. That made me smile, just barely, he noticed. I don't know when it changed, he said. Maybe it was that night we watched the movie and I fell asleep on you. Maybe it was just having you around all the time, seeing you in your space. But it's like, I look at you now, and it's not just my best friend's older brother, it's you. He paused, biting his lip for a second, then said quietly, and I want to be around you. In this way, if that's something you'd even want. The silence that followed was thick, but not uncomfortable anymore. I stepped closer, not all the way. Just enough for the air to shift between us. I haven't stopped wanting you, I said. My voice was hoarse, honest. I just got good at pretending I did. Luca let out this slow, shaky breath, like relief. Like something he'd been holding onto for a long time finally eased off his chest. Then he smiled. Good, he said, stepping in. I didn't move. He was close enough now that I could feel the heat coming off him. His chest rose and fell, just inches from mine. And I realized his hand had lifted, hovering near my arm like he wasn't sure if he could touch me yet. So I touched him first. Just a brush of fingers on his wrist. Enough. The moment cracked open after that. His lips hit mine fast. Not desperate, not messy. Just decisive. Like he'd already thought about it 100 times in his head. And now that he was finally doing it, he wasn't going to hold back. It didn't feel like a first kiss. It felt like something overdue. We didn't say much after that. We didn't have to. The air between us said everything. He kissed me like he was trying to prove a point he hadn't figured out how to put into words yet. Like he needed me to know this wasn't just curiosity or convenience. This was him choosing to stay, for real this time. When we pulled back, we were both breathless. He rested his forehead against mine, still holding on to me like he was afraid I'd disappear if he let go. So, he murmured, voice low, does this mean I'm officially allowed to steal your hoodies? You've been stealing them since day 2, he grinned. Yeah, but now it's romantic. I laughed. God help me, I actually laughed. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. He didn't move out that week. He didn't move out the next one either. In fact, he never moved out at all. We didn't talk about it right away. After that first kiss, after that moment in the kitchen where it all shifted, nothing changed and everything changed. He still hogged the couch during movie nights. Still used my toothpaste. Still left wet towels on the bathroom floor like it was a personality trait. But now, sometimes, I'd walk into the kitchen and he'd be there, making coffee, and he'd lean in and press a quick kiss to my jaw like it was the most normal thing in the world. No build-up, no big gesture. Just him doing it because he wanted to. Because he could. And I let him. Some nights he still fell asleep on the couch, wrapped in a hoodie that was definitely mine. Other nights I'd find him standing in my doorway, rubbing the back of his neck like he wasn't sure if he was welcome in my bed. He was. We didn't label it. Maybe because we didn't know what to call it. Maybe because it felt too new and too fragile to put a word on just yet. But we both felt it. The shift, the quiet knowing that this wasn't just a fling or an experiment or some, oops, I kissed my best friend's brother situation. This was real. And eventually it stopped being a secret. It started small. Luca posting an Instagram story of us watching a game together, my socked feet resting in his lap. Then another one, a blurry picture of me cooking dinner, captioned Domestic King. He was soft-launching me, basically. Not that I minded. But it wasn't until my brother called that things got interesting. I was in the living room. Luca was folding laundry, his version of folding being stuffing clean clothes into my drawer like it was his birthright, when my phone buzzed. Ben, bro, why is Luca in your app again? Lol. Ben, did he move in or what, Ben? Also, he posted you cooking on his story? I stared at my screen for a beat too long. What's up? Luca asked, glancing over. It's Ben, I said. He noticed your little social media rollout? Luca didn't even look guilty. Well, I didn't tag you. Yeah, subtle, I said dryly. He smirked, tossing a pair of socks at me. Guess the secret's out. But it wasn't. Not fully. Not until Ben called the next day and straight up asked, "Are you two hooking up or something?" I paused and said, "Yeah, something like that." There was a long beat of silence on the line. Then, "Okay, just that. No explosion. No dramatic fallout." "Okay?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "I mean, weird. But whatever. You're both adults, and he's been talking about you for years, so honestly, not surprised." That caught me off guard. "Wait, what?" "Oh, come on," Ben said. "You really think I didn't notice the way he used to look at you at family dinners? Dude practically undressed you with his eyes every Thanksgiving." I blinked. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I figured if something ever happened, you'd tell me. Eventually." He wasn't mad. He wasn't even shocked. Just mildly annoyed I hadn't told him first. But when I got off the call, I felt something loosen in my chest. That weekend, Luca and I cooked dinner together like we always did. Afterward, he leaned against the counter while I dried the dishes. "You told him?" he asked. "Yeah." He gave a slow, pleased nod. "Good. You're not worried?" "About what?" "About what people think." He tilted his head. "You?" I shook my head. "Then I'm good." Later that night, I found him already in bed, curled up under my sheets like he belonged there. I slid in beside him, and he immediately reached for me, his hand resting on my waist like it had always known the way. I didn't think I'd end up here with him, but I was starting to realize he hadn't just crashed at my place. He'd crashed into my life and made a home out of it. By February, Luca's toothbrush was in my bathroom cup. His boots were by the door, next to mine. His mail started showing up in my mailbox. Bank statements, some sketchy-looking fitness magazine subscription he swore wasn't his, and a W-2 from some modeling gig in L.A. that made me do a double take at the amount. "You made how much standing shirtless on a beach for an energy drink brand?" I asked, holding the paper. He smirked. "What can I say? People love hydration." I tossed it back at him and tried not to think about how wildly hot that probably looked. He just winked and went back to eating cereal, like he wasn't actively derailing my entire day. That's how things were between us now. Casual, but quietly permanent. We didn't need a conversation to define what we were. We lived together, we kissed, we slept tangled up most nights. We shared Spotify playlists and groceries and dumb inside jokes that nobody else would get. It felt effortless, and yet there were still moments I had to catch my breath. Moments when he'd look at me across the kitchen while brushing his teeth or sit beside me on the couch, knees touching, and I'd realize this is happening. We weren't playing pretend. This wasn't a phase. He was mine, in the way that mattered. One night we were both lying in bed, lights off, city noise humming softly through the window. He was on his back, one arm draped over his head, the other resting lazily across my stomach. I was half asleep when I heard him say it. "I used to crash at people's places because I didn't want to go home." His voice was quiet, barely more than a whisper. I turned toward him. "Yeah?" He nodded, eyes fixed on the ceiling. "Back in L.A., I never really unpacked. Even when I had a place. I always left stuff in bags, kept it light. Like I knew I wouldn't stay. I didn't say anything. Just let him keep going. But this..." He turned his head and looked at me. "I never meant to stay here. You know that, right?" "I figured." He smiled faintly. "But I didn't want to leave either." My chest tightened. Not in a bad way. Just full. "Why didn't you?" He hesitated, then reached for my hand under the covers, threading his fingers through mine. "Because this felt like the first place that didn't make me want to run." We lay there in the dark, fingers locked. No sound except our breathing and the distant wail of a siren several blocks away. "I don't want you to leave," I said softly. "I won't," he said, "not unless you want me to." "I don't." His hand squeezed mine gently. "Then I'm home." And somehow, that was it. That was the conversation. No big speech. No grand declarations. Just honesty, bare and simple. The next morning, he made pancakes, burned half of them, flipped the other half onto the floor, and yelled, "Nailed it!" like he hadn't just committed a hate crime against breakfast. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my coffee. Later, while we were cleaning up, I pulled open the drawer, where I usually kept spare keys, and handed him one. He looked down at it, then back up at me. "Yeah? Yeah." He slid it onto his key ring without another word. It wasn't a ceremony, but it felt like one. It's funny how things shift. How someone who used to be just a name on your brother's contact list ends up sharing your toothpaste, your bed, your life. By spring, the novelty of living together wore off, but not in a bad way. It settled into something softer, something stable. We started figuring out the rhythms of each other's days. Who needed silence in the morning, who always forgot to unload the dishwasher, who liked their eggs runny versus ruined. We had stupid arguments about nothing, like whether pineapple belonged on pizza or why he kept leaving wet towels on the bed. He accused me of being dramatic about his hair in the drain. I told him he was worse than a golden retriever with that mop on his head. But the fights always fizzled into laughter or something worse. Him grabbing my waist mid-sentence, pulling me close, and murmuring, "Say that again, I dare you." We never stayed mad long. Some days, we'd walk to the bodega just to argue about snacks. Other days, we'd spend the whole afternoon curled up on the couch like we were trying to melt into each other. He had this way of draping himself over me like a weighted blanket. Always warm, always there. And sometimes I'd catch myself staring at him while he was brushing his teeth or laughing at some dumb meme on his phone, and I'd just feel it. This quiet disbelief that somehow this was my life now, that he was here, that he never left. A few months in, Ben came to visit. He walked into the apartment, saw Luca padding around barefoot in sweatpants and a Cornell dad hoodie, mine, and immediately narrowed his eyes. "You guys are alike, aggressively domestic," Ben said, looking between us. "Is this what being in your late 20s is like?" Luca grinned and tossed him a beer. "It's not so bad." Ben rolled his eyes. "Whatever, just don't break up. It'd be super annoying to have to pick sides." I laughed. "He's not getting rid of me that easily." Later that night, after Ben left and the dishes were done, I found Luca on the balcony, barefoot, hoodie pulled over his head, sipping tea like he was 80 years old. I slid up behind him, wrapping my arms around his waist, chin on his shoulder. "You good?" I asked. He nodded. "I like this. This life. Us. It's nothing like I thought it'd be. It's better." I kissed the side of his neck. Yeah. We stood there for a while, the city stretching out below us, lights blinking like quiet reminders that the world kept moving. But we had carved out a little corner where time slowed, where he wasn't my brother's best friend anymore. He was just mine. We never had a formal anniversary. But every New Year's Eve, we open a couple beers, make the same takeout order from that first night, and toast on the couch. One year, I asked him if he ever missed L.A. He looked at me, thoughtful for a moment, then said, "I used to think I wanted to live everywhere. Now I know it was just because I hadn't found the place I wanted to stay." He kissed me like that was the answer, and I guess it was.